Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at pragertopia.com.
All right, thank you, sir.
The heat is on the street.
All right, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. Such an honor and privilege to be able to sit in for the wisest man on nationally syndicated radio. Conservative talk for sure, in my opinion. I'm so honored always to sit behind the microphone of Dennis Prager. I want to thank Dennis. I want to thank Sue for the opportunity. I want to thank his producer, Alan Estrin, Sean McConnell, that's in my ear. Gabe has my back right here at AM 950, 94.9 FM, The Answer, Orlando. So I appreciate all of you guys as well tuning in. The number to call in to the program, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Again, that number, 1-8-PRAGER-776 or 1-877-243-7776. Again, 1-877-243-7776. Man, there is so much news that I'd like to cover with you today. I'm going to get into all of the misdoings, if you will, of the DOJ and the effort to go and to attack former President Donald Trump, the corruption of the FBI. I want to get into all of that because all of that is a threat to the United States of America and the rule of law. So we'll be talking about that. I want to get to some of the candidates that are entering in the race, talk about some of the candidates, but I want to talk about the most important question of all, and I probably won't get to that until the third hour, so I want you guys to be mulling over this question, and that is every single one of our nominees has to be able to answer this question if they receive your vote, and that is, how will you win the general election under the current voting system? How will you win the general election under the current voting system? And I want you to be thinking about that question as well, because it's very important. We can talk about how great candidates are all day long. We can talk about polls all day long. But if we have not paid attention to what happened in 2020 and 2022, all of that is for naught. Sounds good on talk radio, but I want to win. If we don't win, none of our ideas and none of our candidates matter. So we'll be getting into that in the third hour of the program. Once again, my name is Carl Jackson. You can find me online, all things social media, at The Carl Jackson Show. That is at The Carl Jackson Show. You can check out my podcast, The Carl Jackson Show, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, please subscribe to the podcast, rate and review it. Give us a 5 so that we can actually be heard. All things social media, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, True Social, Facebook, at The Carl Jackson Show. There's so much to get to. It's hard to know where to start, but I think I want to start here. I actually recorded a podcast, Gabe and I did, earlier this morning. And I want to touch on that before I get into some of the breaking news and some of the headlines of the day, some from the tip sheet, some from other places in which I will go. But I started thinking about, man, this is a random thought, but it came to me. And honestly, when you fill in for Dennis Prager, when you fill in for any of these hosts, quite frankly, it's like you feel like you have to perform at a certain level. Otherwise, you just suck. You know what I mean? Like, you have to bring your A game, and that's a good thing. And so, but when I consider coming on Dennis Prager's show, he's obviously a very thoughtful, intellectual guy. I will never match Dennis Prager's intellect. I won't even try. It would be a waste of time. But that isn't to say that I shouldn't bring my A game. And listen, I'm a Christian, and I have a biblical worldview or biblical slant on some of the topics and some of the issues of the day, and I like to implement that or inculcate that into some of the ideas and some of the topics of the day. And all of a sudden this morning I'm sitting and I'm having a hard time thinking of subjects. There's so much news. It's like, oh my God. Obviously, you got the DOJ corruption, the FBI corruption. He knew. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? He knew, that is the sent cables from Afghanistan explicitly detail that Joe Biden knew all along that if we were to surrender in Afghanistan and leave, he knew exactly what would happen. They knew a framework, a time of when the Taliban would come and take over. So all of this stuff, all of this news out there, and I'm like, man, it's so big, it's so pressing, and I just started thinking, God, what matters? What matters? What matters? And a thought came to mind. How do you depopulate the earth? Huh? What? How do you depopulate the earth? And that's what I did the podcast about this morning. So please check out the podcast and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your friends. Please. I don't say that just because I want to get numbers, although that's nice. Let's be real. But I say that because I think it is a very important podcast. And as I started to break down, and this is original content, by the way, you're not going to hear this on any other show today. So you're only going to hear it on the Dennis Prager show. But I started thinking about, how do you depopulate the earth and why does it matter? And I was like, oh my God, oh my Lord. You see, if we understand how the left wants to depopulate the earth, because they are some evil, demonic, sick people that exist amongst the left, some real elites that don't believe in God, that don't value life, that really wouldn't mind depopulating the earth, because all of these other gods that they adore, that they embrace, simply cause them, in a sense, to do just that. That's what happens when you reject the God of the Bible. So I started thinking about them, and I outlined many, and I'm going to go through them. And what I'm going to do is the stories of the day. I'm going to implement those stories into these issues or these subtopics on how do you depopulate the earth? Because my contention is this: if you understand how the left wants to depopulate the earth, then you'll know how to defeat the left. And so that's what I want to do today on Dennis Prager's show. Number 1, abortion. Number 2, undermine traditional marriage. Number 3, climate change hysteria. Number 4, promote LGBTQ. Number 5, make porn easily accessible to men. Number 6, limit the food supply. Number 7, take away parental rights. Number 8, socialized medicine, single-payer health care, right? Number 9, turn ethnic groups against each other in pluralistic societies like the United States of America. Introduce AI into the mix so that societies choose convenience, all right? Convince the world to take experimental vaccines. And then, if all else fails, force ESG onto people. So let's go through these as we go through some of the topics of the day, because, guys, I'm not just interested in candidates. I'm not interested in playing the Republican and Democrat team anymore. I want to defeat the left. I want to defeat the left. And I don't want to just defeat the left. I want to crush the left, because if we don't win in 2024, all of this is for naught. So you need to be motivated. You need to understand what you're fighting for. Number 1, we want candidates that are opposed to abortion. Why? Why is it abortion? Why is this one of the reasons in which why is this such a big deal, Carl? Can't we just run away from this issue? It's so scary. Republicans are going to lose. Let me tell you something. The Republican that says that we're going to lose on the issue of abortion, I want you to run away from that Republican, because that Republican is worthless in the long run. Let me explain. If you don't value life, you don't value anything else. Do you understand me? If you don't value life, you don't value anything else. If you don't understand how important a baby is, if you don't understand how to respect your elders and how precious life is, I don't want you as my candidate. Assisted suicide. Oh, my God, Carl, don't go there. Some people just don't want to live. We should acquiesce to that, because even some Republican states are doing it. We should acquiesce to that. Because why? Because we want to play God. Absolutely amazing to me. This is why I'm sick and tired of the Republican Democrat team. This is why I'm sick and tired of the red and blue. I respect the elderly. We should care for the elderly. I'm totally opposed to assisted suicide. That's not to say that if someone is on their dying breath or someone can't survive without being on a breathing machine, that's a different topic for the day. But if you don't have a candidate, if you don't have a candidate that cares for life, if you don't have a candidate that cares for the elderly, if you don't have a candidate that cares for the sick and infirm, I would argue to you that you don't have a good candidate. And so you need to move on. How is a candidate that doesn't care for a baby? How is a candidate that doesn't have respect for the elderly? How the hell will he have respect for a voter? All right, I'll be back with the list. More on the other side. This is Carl Jackson in for the great Dennis Prager.
Natural disasters, airline cancellations and runway near misses, supply chain issues, inflation, rising interest rates, and sky-high government debt. This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's a lot in the news about what consumers cannot control, so let's talk about what you can control. You can control how you choose to invest and protect your wealth. That's why I choose to do business with Nick Grovich and his company AmFed Coin and Bullion. Now is a great time to own tangible assets like gold, silver, and platinum. With over 41 years experience and tens of thousands of satisfied clients, Nick will help you make informed decisions and show you smart choices, which have been proven winners time and time again. AmFed Coin and Bullion will sell you the right types of precious metals to get the maximum value for your money. Take control of your investments like I did. Call Nick and his team at AmFed Coin and Bullion at 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. Again, the number to call in to the program, 1-8-PRAGER-776. That is 1-8-PRAGER-776 or 1-877-243-7776. And I want to encourage all of you to go to DennisPrager.com. You can check out his weekly columns and keep up with the show and all things Dennis Prager at DennisPrager.com. Also, Pragertopia.com. You want to check out the podcast Uninterrupted or the show Uninterrupted. And, of course, PragerU.com. Listen, guys, these left-wing colleges, honestly, even social media, they are brainwashing your kids. They are brainwashing young adults. If you want to make sure that your children are smarter and more informed, make sure, and your college students as well, make sure they check out PragerU. I guarantee you they will get addicted. They can type up virtually any subject under the sun. It's the craziest thing, whether it's cultural, whether it's political, historical, even the economy, and something will pop up. Climate change, something will pop up that will be absolutely relevant that your young daughter, your son, they could digest in just 5 minutes. And I guarantee you they will learn about more in that 5 minutes than they could ever imagine. I would argue, in some cases, more than they would learn in an entire semester or even year in some courses that are on college campuses. Again, that number, the number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776. How do you depopulate the earth? And again, I'm going to get to some of the issues of the day. I'm going to touch the breaking news, but I'm going to make sure that they intertwine, or this list intertwines into the news of the day. My goal is to, it's not that I want Republicans to win. Listen, guys, I'm a Christian constitutionalist or constitutional restorationist that happens to be black, and in that order. All right. So I want to make sure that America wins. I want to make sure that the Constitution wins above all. And I'm one of these people where I want to use the best candidate possible so that we get the results that we want. And when I say we, I mean we the people. I'm a big we the people guy. I really believe in using politicians for the sake of getting the stuff that we need done. When a politician leaves office, there's only one question that you need to ask when he or she leaves office. All right. And that is, am I freer today? Am I freer today than I was before they were elected? That's it. Am I freer today? That's it. This is a constitutional republic. This is a democratic republic. Everyone gets to participate, right? But we have a representative republic in that sense. We get to vote for the people that we want to do our business. And it's important that you always understand your role in this constitutional republic. And I got to be frank with you. I feel like a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives, obviously a lot of people on the left have completely forgotten about that. We the people, it isn't just a cliche. It isn't just words, written in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. It is. They aren't just words. Those words have to mean something to you. And so I believe this is what I believe God was giving me today. Again, how do you depopulate the earth? And I'll bring in some topics here because you had Representative Cori Bush come out and say some pretty racist things yet again. And I'm going to weave that in because I want to talk to you about what's happening with Chicago. So perhaps what I'll do with some of these topics as I go is I will just, like I said, I will share some of these stories. So undermine traditional marriage, one man, one woman. That's pretty obvious, right? If you wanted to depopulate the earth, you would undermine traditional marriage. You would undermine real marriage. You would undermine God-ordained marriage, perhaps is what I would say. And why would you undermine traditional marriage? Why would you undermine God-ordained marriage? It's obvious that you would want to depopulate the earth. Now, I know there's some people out there, there's some single men and women out there that don't think marriage is a big deal. It's a big deal. Marriage is the bedrock of civil society. If you don't have enough people getting married, it's as simple as this: society will not last. So you want candidates that will hold in high esteem the traditional marriage between one man and one woman. That isn't to say that we hate other groups or we despise other groups. No, we just have to keep it real. All right. We have to keep it real. We have to be faux real, as they used to say in Compton, California. All right. You have to be for real. You have to keep it real. Society cannot thrive if you don't have male-female marriages. It cannot grow. Another thing that you need to be concerned about when it comes to depopulating the earth is climate change and this global warming, man-made global warming hysteria. Now, why? Carl, why is it climate change? How can you say climate change is depopulating the earth? Aren't we trying to fix that? I mean, I'm some, liberal. I recycle. And by the way, guys, I work in an industry. I can tell you that recycling is a complete and utter joke. It is a complete and utter joke, all right? I've owned a janitorial business. I've owned a landscape business, do now, as a matter of fact. And I can tell you there's times where we make dumps in these places that are recycling material. And I'll tell you right now, it all goes in the same place. They just lied to you behind. It's fascinating. I sit there and watch it. I'm like, this was just straight up lie to people. It's a cult. It is a cult. They don't recycle jack squat. You'll be lucky if they recycle maybe 10% of the glass and aluminum. I'm sorry if you're throwing cardboard, if you're throwing plastic. I'm here to tell you, in my businesses, I can go to the dump and I see them mix all of that crap together because they don't recycle anything. They just have the recycling trucks dump it in some other places. It's the funniest thing. I sit there in sheer amazement. And I sit there and I'm thinking, man, you've got an entire city buying into this crap, and it's all a hoax to make you feel good. You're not doing anything to save the planet. They're not doing anything to save the planet. It's just all a hoax. It's a way to arouse emotions out of you. It's a way to get more money from you. It's a way for politicians to get elected as they pretend as if they're morally superior because they care about this planet that they can do nothing about. And I don't listen. I do believe that man has some type of impact on the environment, right? Man has some type of impact on the environment. You don't think God accounted for that when he created the earth? I think God is smarter than me. That's why atheists don't want to believe in God. They want to pretend as if they're smarter than God. But a lot of their views are just straight up moral relativism. All right. It's absolutely insane. Now, let me tell you about this story. You guys may have heard of it. And I want to bring up a couple more stories. I'm sure you guys have heard of the story. I only have a short period of time left before the break. I'm sure you guys have heard of the story in Ireland. This is why this stuff is so important. where Ireland is considering killing 200,000 cattle in the name of climate change. And I ask you, how many homeless people can 200,000 cows feed? These people are insane, guys. I'm going to teach you the right fights to be fighting leading up to 2024. Stay tuned. Carl Jackson in for Dennis Prager. All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in. Callers, I'll go to you in just a second. I am going through my list, the 12 ways the left wants to depopulate the earth and how to fight back. By the way, I just touched on this subject this morning on my podcast. Please subscribe to my podcast. Please share my podcast anywhere you go to find podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. If you want to check out the video, and ladies, I know some of you do, you get to see me in the video, all right? So rumble.com, my wife probably won't like that, but rumble.com, the Carl Jackson Show, YouTube as well, all right? The Carl Jackson Show, that'll help us move up the charts. Give us a 5, rate and review it. We would sincerely appreciate that. Honestly, I'm not putting anything, I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter, and I love the fighters out there. I count on the fighters. Like, we feed off of each other, right? We got to save America. We have to restore the Constitution. So you can help me out by going to the CarlJacksonShow.com or wherever you go to get your podcast. I'm in this fight for you. I know you're in this fight for me, and I love all of you that are listening out there. God's to honest truth. But we were talking about climate change, and it is bovicide, as Sean McConnell was saying. And Sean, who's handling the calls? I forgot to give them props. Forgive me. All right, Jennifer is on the lines today, so forgive me, Jennifer. Jennifer is on the lines today. 1-8-PRAGER 776, 1-8-PRAGER 776. Bovicide. That's what's happening. That's what's happening in Ireland. They are considering, they haven't made it definitive as of yet, but they are considering killing 200,000 cattle in the name of climate change, and it's all BS. It's a complete and utter nonsense. You guys understand how much protein is important to the human body, strengthening our bodies, muscle, restoration and all that kind of good stuff. It's weird. It's almost as if these elites don't want strong human beings. They want us to eat bugs. They want us to be weaker than them. But when they're flying in their private jets because they're off to, I don't know, some G7 summit meeting or something to fight climate change, they're probably going to be eating a big fat steak while they're traveling there. These people are a complete and utter joke. This idea that you're destroying the planet and cows are destroying the planet by farting is absolute nonsense. You know what CO2 is, right? It is carbon dioxide. These people want you dead. These people are sick. These people are evil. And if you don't have a candidate that is not willing to talk about this man-made climate change hoax, I'm telling you, folks, don't vote for them. I'm of the opinion we have to go the whole entire football field to win. We need fighters and fighters only. I don't want rhinos. I don't want moderates. I want a straight up fighter in the White House. Carl Jackson and for Dennis Prager. We'll be back.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell with MyPillow is launching the MyPillow 2.0. When Mike invented MyPillow, it had everything you could ever want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he discovered a new technology that makes it even better. The MyPillow 2.0 has the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, and now with a brand new fabric that is made with a temperature-regulating thread. The MyPillow 2.0 is the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. For my listeners, the MyPillow 2.0 is buy one, get one free offer with promo code Prager. MyPillow 2.0 temperature-regulating technology is 100% made in the USA and comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listeners square to the buy one, get one free offer. Enter promo code Prager or call 800-761-6302 to get your MyPillow 2.0 now.
Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. All right, guys, the number to call in to the studio, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Again, that number, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Callers, I see you out there, so don't go anywhere. I'm going to try my best to get to all of you. I see Jack, I see Royce, I see Brent, I see Jay. If you want to call in to be a part of the conversation, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. I got to share this, Sean. I got to share this. So CNN, this is breaking. CNN has already decided that they're going to start a new network called CNN Minus. They're going to bring back all the people they fired, and they expect ratings to soar. Oh, my goodness. What a disaster that place is. First off, they've got to believe in truth. They got to believe in real journalism, and they've got to believe in talent. CNN doesn't believe in any of those things, so it's going to be really almost virtually, I should say, impossible to rebuild that network until they are committed to truth, until they are committed to true journalism, and until they're committed to getting talent. I'm sorry, I watched News Nation. Is it Chris Cuomo? Which one is the news guy? Is it okay? So Chris Cuomo. I accidentally watched the show. All right, so no emails. But I got to tell you, I just flipped on it and I checked it out. I was like, I didn't know this cat was back on TV. Let me see what he's up to. I got to tell you, it was a better show than he was putting on for CNN. He seemed more real and natural, looked like he was enjoying himself, didn't seem all stiff-necked. It was weird. He was obviously a liberal, but he had people on there with different viewpoints, talked a little bit of entertainment, economy, Republican politics, and I was like, wow, CNN should try that. But they don't want to. And there was complete and utter outrage once they had Donald Trump on CNN, and Chris Licht allowed him to have that town hall, and he was able to pick his audience, and he totally destroyed the moderator. They were like, enough is enough. And speaking of Trump, we will get into what's happening with him and the prosecutions, because honestly, guys, it's not just about him. He has such a name and such a brand, but it's so much bigger than Trump himself. But they are trying to destroy that man, because the truth of the matter is they want to destroy you. They're just trying to push him out of the way. And I don't care if you hate Trump with everything that's in you. I hope you're wise enough to love and respect the rule of law, that you're willing to not just listen to any and everybody that's on television or even radio, but you would do your own research. What we are seeing, the prosecution of Donald Trump constantly going after this man, is absolutely unprecedented, and it will be devastating to our system as it exists. Guys, I don't say this lightly. If we don't win in 2024, it is going to be virtually impossible to turn this country back around. I'm just being real with you. It's got to be all hands on deck. Now, let me get back to some of these stories that I'd like to share with you. And again, I'll make sure that I'll bring you some breaking news as it comes. But we're going through the 12 ways that the left wants to depopulate the earth. And I think it's extremely important. If you pay attention to these issues, if you pay attention to the whatever issue the left is using to depopulate the earth, you'll be able to defeat the left if you can fight back on that issue. You may be a one-issue person. You shouldn't be a one-issue voter, by the way. But maybe you would become an activist for one of these issues. Maybe, or maybe you'll elect a candidate, and this will be a checklist for you. This stuff is extremely important. You know, what they believe about this list here that I created. And I don't say that haphazardly. I don't say it to be cocky. Yes, I'm brilliant. Yes, I'm magnificent. I know God gave me good looks and all, but I'm extremely humble. This stuff just, no. But seriously, I really do believe that God put this on my heart. I really do. And so I want to share this with you because it's so important. And when I thought about it, it all connected. All of it connects. The left wants to depopulate the earth. That's why they promote the LGBTQ community so hard, right? This trans movement. And let's be honest. And listen, to my gay and lesbian homies, I don't dislike you, right? I don't have homophobia. And by the way, I hate that term because phobia suggests that you fear something. That's just asinine. But the left is good at playing word games. But it has nothing to do with that. This is just a reality check, guys. If all we do is promote lesbian and gay relationships and we never promote heterosexual relationships, what do? You depopulate the earth. I'm sorry. Fact check. Gays and lesbians can't reproduce children. Yes, they can adopt. Okay, great. I'm not. That goes counter to my belief system. Okay, but gays and lesbians can adopt. They can't produce babies. This isn't rocket science. This is really simple. And if you don't have conservatives and people that are willing to just speak the truth in love and in kindness, no vitriol, but just be straight up. The trans issue is really sad. I heard Amala. I was able to tune in for a short period of time yesterday, and the brilliant Amala Epinobi was on here. She does fabulous. That girl is brilliant. I mean, she honestly, the fact that she is at like 21, 22, it's insane. That chick is brilliant. Same is true with Julie Hartman. My God, it's fabulous, the people that we have on our side. So you can check out both of their podcasts. There's a Dennis and Julie podcast. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But she was talking about the trans movement yesterday, and she had interviewed a couple of people. But I just want to, I want to say this. It's despicable how the left is willing to use people. Listen. Obviously, if you have a man that's willing to chop off his private part and you have a woman that's willing to alter her private part, those people can no longer produce people. Those people, listen to me, those people are going to die. I want you to hear this because nobody seems to think about this stuff past the surgery or past the pain or maybe up to the suicide, because that happens too at a very large percentage in that particular community. These people are going to die alone, without family. Now, hopefully their parents are still alive, but if they're not, I remember watching a special on this guy that wanted to change his part. He chopped this thing off, and then the guy later on figured out, oh, well, I'm gay, but no guy wants him. It's insane. It's cruel. Another thing you would do is you would make porn easily accessible to men. Why do I say make porn easily accessible to men? Well, men that are listening will understand this. Man, let's just be real. We're overstimulated. We're easily stimulated when we see the female body. We're attracted to the female body. But the problem with porn and excessive porn, the easily accessible porn, is we're overstimulated and we're never satisfied. So we have a hard time settling down. We don't want this idea. We don't want one relationship. Why? Because frankly, we've seen too many booties. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. You want to know how the left is destroying our society? You want to know how the left is depopulating the earth? I'm talking to you about them. And some Republicans out there are scared to talk about social issues. They're worthless. They're worthless. I'm so sick and tired of these fake and phony conservatives and Republicans. Well, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm not a social conservative. Oh, yeah? How do you pull that off, Jack, when we've got a welfare system? I'm a fiscal conservative. What a moron. I can't stand when people say that. I know they're trying to be smart, but they're dumb as hell. Forgive me. Get a little hyped on this stuff. But I'm tired of it. I want to win. I don't want to just win elections. I want to win back the culture. I want families to get back together. I want relationships to be healed. It's more than about politics. And if you make it's more than about politics, we can win the day. We have to be willing to win every facet of this of America. From the politics to the culture to getting people's butts back in pews, we have to win the day everywhere. And so these are some of the fights that we're going to have to take on. The left wants to limit the food supply. They literally do. I told you about the 200 cattle that they just want to kill for the sake of man-made climate change. Give me a break. Or the people dying. Prove to me that somebody died from man-made climate change. I want to see it. I want to see it on somebody's death warrant. God's sake, we'll be back. All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. The number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-7761. 8-PRAGER-776. I'll be going to your calls in just a second here. But you do have the Iron Sheik. For those of you that are familiar with wrestling, I have my buddies here, the American Adversaries. They always equate or figure in political wrestling like they're the political guys, how do you say it? Forgive me. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. But anyway, but they're big into wrestling. I was big into wrestling when I was a kid. And then one day I was watching wrestling with my dad. We were sitting there. I used to love me some Hulk Hogan. I used to love Hulk Hogan. I loved the Junkyard Dog, and I loved Iron Sheik. But Hulk Hogan was my main man. I was sitting in my dad's room. We were watching. It was the WWF at the time, and I'm sitting there. Hulk Hogan is battling back. I can't remember who he's wrestling at the time, and then my dad just started laughing, kicked his chair back, and he was like, "This stuff is so funny. I can't believe it's all fake." Just devastated me. I could never look at wrestling the same after that. But anyway, I loved watching the Iron Sheik, and I think I followed him on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he's passed away at the age of 81. May he rest in peace here. Just real quick, and then I want to go to calls, and we're going through the list of the 12 ways in which the left is depopulating the earth. And if you understand this list, then you'll understand what to fight for. Also in the news, Chris Christie has launched his bid to run for the presidency. I heard someone say, and I believe this to be true, perhaps he's being paid by donors. I don't know why you would get in the race with the preface that you're going to knock down Trump. I think you should be focused on knocking down Biden, literally the guy that is destroying the United States as we know it. And so for that reason alone, I hope you fail, Chris Christie. And then also, Mike Pence has announced that he's running. I'm sorry. All right. Mike Pence has announced that he's running, you guys. Yeah, there. Okay. So listen, I like Mike Pence. I think he's a decent guy. I don't think he should be running. I think Mike Pence, if he could run for a VP slot again, maybe get another 4 years, perhaps that's what he might be doing. Perhaps he really believes he's in it to win it. He's a praying man. He's a Christian guy, so I don't doubt that at all. He really seems sincere in his faith. I don't believe he stands a shot. But if there's people out there or stands a chance, and quite frankly, I'm not one that would want him to be president. But listen, man, this is a free country, and you should fight for whatever candidate that you believe is going to be best to solve this nation's problems, assuming that we can even win an election to address the nation's problems. But having said that, let me just touch on one more headline, and I promise you, callers, I am going straight to you. Where did I see it? It was on the tip sheet, and I accidentally deleted the tip sheet, but I see it here. Gender identity is real. This according to a federal judge that has blocked Florida's ban on gender-affirming procedures. This will only apply to 3 people, so this judge is only going to at least temporarily destroy 3 lives and their parents eventually, but he's going to destroy 3 lives and allow these people that file suit to go on with their gender-affirming care while this hearing is waiting, while we're waiting to hear this. What a sick, twisted puppy. For him to say gender identity is real, he said something of the sort like, Ron DeSantis and all this stuff was political. This is a judge. This is a judge. This is a guy that should be interpreting the law as it exists, not making up rules as they go. This is a judge. This is another thing that we have to be concerned about, because all of those appointments that Trump made were great judges, so on, etc. You realize that Biden is kicking our booty when it comes to federal judge appointments. And God forbid he wins in 2024. And you know what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to pass the baton. They're going to try to pass the baton. As soon as he gets to a position where he wins the nomination, he can literally hand off his delegates. There's a process, and I forget the process, but I talked about it when I was in for Officer Tatum. There's a process in which he could literally hand off his presidency to Kamala Harris, or at least the nomination. She could run, or he could literally wait, and then before the Electoral College is certified, I believe, he could hand over his presidency to her. No problem, because that's the only way Kamala Harris would win. It's the only way Kamala Harris would win. It's as simple as that. But these people are sick and twisted. Let's take some of your calls. Many of you have been waiting for quite some time. I really do appreciate your patience. And then we'll get into I want to get into some of these racial issues with Cori Bush. Also want to let you know what's happening in Chicago. I told you I would talk to you about that. Also, some more climate nut jobs and what's happening in South Africa. You want to talk about some really racist stuff and what could be coming to a city near you in the United States? You need to be reading up on what's happening in South Africa. My former co-host, when I did a local show here at AM 950, The Answer, Orlando Aubrey Khan, the only African-American I know that happens to be white, used to talk to me about some of the things that were happening in South Africa, and I will read up on them. It's insane. And nobody talks about it. That stuff is coming here because they're using the same lingo that these woke leftists use out here. All right, having said that, let's go to Jack. Jack is in Bell Gardens, California. I know where that is, Jack. Jack, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You got the mic.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely right that depopulation is an essential element of the form of government called totalitarianism. And
Yes.
that's according to Hannah Arendt.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Listen,
and also the climate change people are truly evil because we saved plant life on Earth by burning fossil fuels and increasing the amount of carbon dioxide that plants need to live.
Yeah. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. A lot of them are just naive and morons. But listen, Jack, I appreciate the call. You're absolutely right. They don't teach science anymore. I mean, this is all propaganda. This is one of the reasons why I'm concerned about AI, too. We'll get into that. A lot of conservatives are talking about and are concerned about AI taking over as far as jobs are concerned. I'm concerned about straight up mind conditioning, brainwashing that AI could do. So we'll talk about that. Lou, who has my back, typically here, Gabe Cassiano is in today. But Lou, you'll hear me mention Lou's name. He gave me an article that I read on. I mean, this stuff could get absolutely crazy. All right, let's take we only got a minute. Listen, John, Brant, and Susan, I see you out there. If you guys hold on, I'll get to you as soon as possible. Let me just go back down the list. The left also wants to depopulate the earth by taking away parental rights. What do you mean? How could they depopulate the earth by taking away parental rights? Now, my laptop is trying to go to sleep on me, but the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Daily Signal has written about this. The Southern Poverty Law Center is literally going after parental rights with the help of the disgusting DOJ and the Biden administration. We'll talk about that next. This is Carl Jackson in for the great Dennis Prager. Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. Sean McConnell be playing the hits, man, and I'm sitting there bopping my head instead of paying attention. Sorry. Anyway, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. The number to call in, 1-8-Prager-776. 1-8-Prager-776. Guys, we have a lot of ground to cover in this hour, so I hope you are wearing sneakers because you are in for some conservative cardio. I am going to get to your calls first, however, and man, do we have some excellent calls out there, and I promise you, I'm going to get to you. Man, you got just some great responses, some great questions that I am seeing on the screen, so I cannot wait to get to you. Again, the number The number, 1-8-Prager-776. I am your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for the great Dennis Prager. And again, I want to take the time to thank Dennis Prager and Sue for trusting me, and Dennis particularly, obviously, trusting me behind his microphone. Alan Estrin for inviting me and giving me another opportunity as well. Sean McConnell. That is in my ear. Jennifer, that's working the phones. We also have Gabe Cassiano that has my back right here at AM 950. The Answer. He also helps to produce my podcast, so you can check out my podcast. We produce one Monday through Friday, so you can check it out, obviously, at any time that you would like. And we're going to have some good ones. I'm starting a series on the Bill of Rights, Amendments 1 through 10. I don't think anyone else is doing this, and we really need to be talking about the Bill of Rights. I'm going to start a 10-week series on the Bill of Rights that you'll have to look forward to. So I'm going to gain some knowledge. You'll gain some knowledge. The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me, or anywhere you go to get your podcasts. You can also check us out on Rumble and YouTube as well, The Carl Jackson Show. All things social media. At The Carl Jackson Show. And some of you have already followed me on Twitter at Carl Jackson Show. RHO Pros wrote, if Joe really garnered that many constitutionally compliant votes and won in 2020, why are globalists and the deep state still fighting so hard to keep Trump out of the 2024 race? And RHO Pros on Twitter goes on to say, because the cabal knows it used a virus and the subsequent response to install their dude. Question mark. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And we'll get into that. Man, we got so much ground to cover. Let me go ahead and do this. Also, I'm reading this headline. Feds inform Trump he is target likely to be indicted as the DOJ rebuffs prosecutorial misconduct claim. Trump defense has submitted secret evidence alleging a prosecutor tried to sway witness testimony by discussing federal judgeship. So they are going after this man because they're going after you. I almost wish we could figure out a way to frame this in a better way, because Trump is such a big personality, and obviously he has taken blows like no one's business. But the real target isn't just Trump, it's you. These people are trying to fundamentally transform America, and they have to go after Trump in order to get to you. And that's exactly what they're doing. Let's go to Brent. Brent has been waiting a long time. Brent, I so appreciate your patience. Brent calling from Los Angeles, California, that you hear all the time, making great points all over talk radio. Brent, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show, man. You've got the mic.
God bless you, my courageous brother Carl.
Thank you.
You are one of the few guys with the guts to righteously rip off the monstrous masks and kick in the genocidal doors of the devil. And I want to assist you to rip off the Marxist mask of medically assisted murder, which they screech and scream is sweet suicide. Again, just proving all leftist love is a lie. If Democrat Marxists demand to mandate medical murder, make them diversely, inclusively, and equitably outsource it to Antifa, MS-13, BLM, Biden's fentanyl cartels, or CCP cadres embedded in our elite universities. Because I remember when AMA doctors used to be mandated to deliver only health, healing, babies, and life-saving medicine, never, ever demonically delivered mRNA disease or death.
Man, good stuff. Powerful stuff, Brent. I appreciate it. And you're right. It's and I'm going to frame it that way. It's a medically assisted murder. That's absolutely what it is. You don't know how God could use someone's life even towards the end. And someone out there that's listening today might need to hear that your life is valuable. Excuse me. From the womb to the tomb, your life is valuable. Obviously, there's circumstances where you absolutely have no control. Your family has no control. But if your goal is just comfort, I'm tired, I'm done, man, stop playing God. You don't know what God could use you for. You don't know who God could use you to speak to in your last days, months, or years. Some people just don't want to live anymore. This constant, this devaluation of life in our society, it's just sickening. And as we start to devalue life, we start to devalue people. And that's a place that I simply do not want to go. And I would caution so-called conservatives, so-called Republicans to stop going this route. For God's sakes, somebody's got to be salt and light to the culture. That's why I don't like playing I used to play the Republican-Democrat game. I'm getting so sick of it because there's so many weak Republicans. I'm absolutely disgusted. They're not doing anything to save this country. For God's sakes, man, I want to save this country. I think we have a responsibility to save this country. We inherited this country, the best country on the planet. People want to be stewards for the environment. It's amazing to me. But they don't want to be stewards for the country, for the best country. It makes no sense to me. People are just wacky nowadays. It's just crazy. All right, let's go to John. John has been waiting patiently as well. John is in Tampa, Florida.
Hello,
John,
Carl.
welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You got the mic.
Carl, I appreciate the discussion on the philosophical side of and the population control side of this LGBT movement. I want to bring up a real simple, basic root of the whole problem, and that is following the science. A doctor told me this 20 years ago, and he said, John, there's a big physiological and biological difference between an anus and a vagina. You stuff a banana in your ear and call it eating. It doesn't make it so. Likewise, if you try to have a baby through your anus, you're going to die. They're made for different purposes. God created every part perfectly for different purposes. Once we lose sight of that natural reality, everything else is fair game, including pedophilia and bestiality. I tell the liberals, talk to a doctor and ask him, what is the difference between an anus and a vagina? And any doctor who's honest will say, if you use the parts improperly, over time, you may not have the ability to have a normal bowel movement. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, the operative words as well that you use is honest doctor. They're hard to find. Many of them work now for these healthcare agencies or these big hospital conglomerates, and they're no longer free to speak out. We'll get into that point as I make one of my points here, but there's so much more I want to get to. I'm going to take another call, and then I'm just going to break for a few minutes because I need to cover some stuff, and then I want to get back to Bruce, Eddie, and Jay. I see you out there, but Kathleen has been waiting patiently. She's in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Kathleen, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You got the mic.
I'd like to say that two conflicting ideas that can coexist at the same time would be trans and all this sexuality that a boy could be a girl and a girl could be a boy. Well, two conflicting ideas that can't coexist at the same time. It undoes God's creation, and that is where it comes down to. This is a Jacob's ladder that they're building to manifest himself as the most important part, where he confused their language because they built this ladder to heaven in Genesis 11, Jacob's ladder. And that's where we're at right now. What we need is some real religion, real religious people that are running our country, which is founded on the rights of God. We were founded under God. We are not founded under this idea that you could have boys be girls and girls be boys. This is a family-oriented country. We are a Christian nation. And it undoes God's creation is the bottom line. And when you undo God's creation, we're not created under God then.
Kathleen, we're simply out of time. Thank you for such a thoughtful call. Why am I surprised on the Dennis Prager Show we would get thoughtful calls like this? I'm not. I shouldn't be, right? Of course not. We'll be back.
Yeah, I've been feeling this way. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. The number to call in, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Callers, if you continue to wait patiently, I promise you I will get to you. Eddie, Bruce, Jay, and Dell, I see you out there, and I will get to you. I just want to make sure that I get through these 12 points and share some other things on the news with you that I had mentioned earlier. I actually have to pull up some stuff here because I accidentally X'd out of a website that I need. Okay, so now socialized medicine. This is another way in which the left is trying to depopulate the earth. And we need conservatives, we need constitutionalists that are willing to talk about how the medical field is being absolutely destroyed in the United States of America. Quite frankly, I have family members that are being affected by Obamacare, some of which were friendly and voted for Obama. And now they're starting to see things like, whoa. And I won't go into great detail or specificity, but people are starting to wake up. The problem is it's too late. Our medical system has been radically transformed, and it's sad to me that people have just given up on it. Republicans don't even talk about it anymore. I dare you to find a conservative talk show that talks about Obamacare and reversing Obamacare. Trump attempted to do it. John McCain stabbed us in the back. I'm sorry. It's why I have little respect for the memory of John McCain. He was a great hero, but then he helped to give us socialized medicine. So I'm like, that kind of nullifies the hero part for me. I'm sorry. It isn't my goal to be disrespectful. It isn't my goal to be nasty. I respect military men. I respect heroes, but he should have known better. He should have known better. Socialized medicine, single-payer health care, Obamacare. Obamacare was meant to grease the skids. The socialized medicine. Now you have you have a shortage of doctors and nurses. Do you guys realize that? And we have an open border with 6 to 7 million people coming into the United States using our emergency health care rooms as health care, if you will. It's insane. Not to mention so many people getting Medicaid, many that are where it's fraud that should not be getting Medicaid. And then the people that should be getting Medicare. Remember, Obama stole, you guys remember that? $787 billion at the time. We were like, oh my God, $787 billion that Obama and the Democrats stole from Medicare in order to hook up Obamacare. And Obamacare has been a complete and utter disaster. Healthcare costs are up. Your premiums are up. Your doctor's visits, your out-of-pockets are up, and nobody talks about it. And you have too few doctors now. I have someone that I know waiting to get a serious surgery that they need like yesterday, and they're telling them to wait until September. That's Obamacare. And we don't even talk about it anymore. Do they just wait for people to die? Yeah. Remember when Sarah Palin was ridiculed and mocked for saying that they were going to ration care, for saying that there were going to be death panels? She was absolutely 1,000% right. Now you got doctors that can't even have personal relationships with their patients because they simply have no time. They simply have no time. And then they work for these large healthcare conglomerates that really don't give a damn about patients. It's all about crunching numbers. They wanted to make money off of COVID. Some of these organizations, they want to make money off of mutilating children. You can thank Obamacare for that. Because many doctors can no longer afford to stay in practice because they have so much paperwork to do that they just can't do it. They can't survive. And that's all intentional. So that's another way in which you depopulate the earth. You overwhelm the system. You make people wait, and they just die. You turn ethnic groups against each other. You turn whites and blacks against each other. You promulgate this nonsense, this CRT, this DEI. I've got to get to this story. If you guys will hang on and be patient with me, callers, I see you out there, but this is a must. I promise you I would get to it, and I would be doing you a disservice, quite frankly, if I didn't get to it here. But on the tip sheet this morning, if I could, you give me just a second here. Cori Bush, Representative Cori Bush. What did Compton Carlotta have to say? Forgive me here. Cori Bush claims Republicans who are not woke are anti-black. This, according to the Washington Examiner, Representative Cori Bush called out Republicans who considered themselves anti-woke stating they are labeling themselves as anti-black during a House Oversight Committee hearing on Tuesday. During a House Committee on Oversight and Accountability hearing on environmental, social, and governance, or ESG topics, Bush pointed to the extremely frequent use of wokeness among Republican leaders. Bush said those who fixate on establishing themselves as anti-woke are actually saying, I don't want black people to speak up for themselves. I don't want equality and justice for black folks. The comments from Bush follow a recently introduced resolution in the House of Representatives in support of federal reparations. A group of Democratic legislators led by Bush proposed a $14 trillion resolution titled Reparations Now last month for black people to receive compensation for the legacy of slavery. So you have people that were never slaves being paid by people that were never slave owners. Oh, that's great. And this lady happens to be one of the most powerful people in the United States of America, and she claims she's oppressed. But one of the ways in which you would depopulate the earth is you turn blacks and whites against each other. You invent things called CRT and DEI, and that way blacks and whites are fighting, and they're even getting violent. You add a bit of, a mix of defund the police in there, and then all of a sudden cities across the United States are going crazy. Murder and mayhem ensue. Murders increase. It's insane. Here's a story. Here's a story that nobody talks about. I did a podcast yesterday. Black Lives Murders. 2 weekends in a row in Chicago, there's been double-digit murders by shootings that has taken place. You heard about this? Last weekend, 52 people shot. 10 of those people are dead. Here's a couple of stories for you. On Saturday night, a man opened fire into a crowd, listen to this, gathered for a vigil. He injured 7 people. He killed one of those people. Earlier that day, in broad daylight, a 70-year-old man was shot in the chest. Guys, let me tell you a quick story. How much time do we have here, Sean? All right, I used to be mixed up into nonsense, all right? When I was in Cali, got mixed up here too, unfortunately. But I had a buddy of mine, I won't say his name, but he was a blood. He was a blood. I grew up in a Crip neighborhood. He was a blood. But he had gotten his life together. He was playing football. He lived in Watts. He was a big dude, buff dude. He had calmed down tremendously, stopped the gangbanging because he was actually going to go to college to play ball. But you know what the problem was? He lived in the hood. He was surrounded by people that still liked the gang life. He ended up being shot 7 times in the freaking chest with a 12-gauge shotgun. Nobody's paying attention to this. Black Lives Matter, huh? Screw you, Cori Bush. You don't give a damn about black people. All you care about is your freaking power. All of this reparations stuff is just a bait and switch to keep black people impoverished and in chains. Screw you, Cori Bush. All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. The number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Don't forget, guys, check out DennisPrager.com. All things Dennis Prager. His columns are out every Tuesday. PragerTopia.com. You can catch all of his podcasts uninterrupted. Also, PragerU.com. Prager 5-minute videos that are changing the world. 5-minute videos that are changing the world. PragerU.com. Don't forget also, you can check out the Dennis and Julie podcast. Is that on Mondays now, Sean? All right, Mondays at 1 p.m. Pacific, the Dennis and Julie podcast. Dennis and Julie are all over the place. On June 5th, they did the Tangent Hour. Topics include the differences between parenting and grandparenting. It could be a second opportunity. Perhaps they're not happy with the way their children turned out. So you can check out that podcast, the Dennis and Julie podcast, on Mondays, 1 p.m. specific time. The last one, 65, the Tangent, or I guess it's podcast 65, the Tangent Hour. Dennis and Julie podcast. And she's brilliant. She's brilliant. I'm not going to lie. I look at some of these young bucks that are coming up in conservatism, and it absolutely does me proud to see that we have a generation of fighters, whether it's Charlie Kirk, Officer Tatum, Amala Ekpunobi, Julie Hartman. They are out there, and it's encouraging. It is just so encouraging to see these young guns, Candace Owens, that are just, man, I mean, fighting for conservatism like nobody's business. All right, now, Let me just finish this up. I'll go to your calls, but callers, I'm going to ask you to make it quick because I need to play this audio clip for you. I know you guys heard it of the former FBI director, James Comey, but he said something. I think people kind of skipped over one of the bigger points in that interview, and I want to press a point in that interview. I also need to quickly tell you about what's happening with this latest J6 video that's been unmasked and more that's going on as the left continues to prosecute Trump, hoping to go after you. Make no mistake about it. Essentially that's what it's about. It's about the fundamental transformation of America, and these fools are running scared, so they have to destroy Trump. They have to destroy you. The J6 protesters are already feeling it, many of them that are sitting and rotting in jail right now. But Carl, you talked about this CRT, this DEI, Cori Bush, and how, racism from the left, by the way, is depopulating the earth. That's a bit of a silly argument. Oh, it is, huh? All right. Hat tip revolver news. South Africa plans to limit water for white people by enacting race quotas. All right. So this is one of those stories where you're like, is this for real? Yeah, it is. So first, the South African government, they confiscated land. You guys might not be aware of this. You're never going to hear about it on CNN. But they confiscated land from white farm owners. I know. Carl, it's reparations for apartheid. The problem is the black farmers that stole the land don't know how to freaking farm. And so more people are dying. Well, they also have an issue with water. So what these terrorists that are running the South African government are going to do is they're going to start rationing water to farmers. So if you're a black farm owner, you probably stole the farm. But if you're a black farm owner and now you have that farm, you're going to get a larger stipend of water than white farmers. You have to apply for a license to get water to your farm now. And you may or may not, you have to let them know the color of your skin because you may or may not get water. Now, if you're black, you're going to get water. The problem is you have a lot of new farmers that happen to be black because they confiscated land from white farmers as they raped their wives, too, by the way. That was a big issue out there that nobody seemed to talk about. So they did that as well. So now they're confiscating these farms. They're going to ration water for white people. I wonder how many people are going to die. You think white people are just going to die? You think people are going to learn how to farm overnight? You think people are going to learn how to treat water overnight? They literally have legislation. I won't go through it. I don't have time for it. But I talked about this on my podcast as well. Check out the Carl Jackson Show podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. So don't tell me racism can't depopulate the earth, because that's exactly what they're going to be doing in South Africa. Another thing that you would do is you would introduce AI so that societies choose convenience, right? They choose convenience over contentment. You're willing to be brainwashed. You're willing to be stimulated by some type of machine and virtual reality instead of talking to people. It has the same effect, basically, as undermining traditional marriage or buying into the LGBTQ barbecue nonsense. It's absolutely insane. Oh, and by the way, here's another point. All right, I'll have to make it after the break. I'm just saying we need to replace Pride Month with American Pride Month, people. What are we doing? We'll be back.
Oh, I don't think you realize.
Your show, I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in. I want to go through the calls real quick because there's a lot of stories that I still want to get to that I at least want to touch on that I think are very important for you to hear. And I'll wrap up my list as well. I only have a couple of more, and we'll make them brief. But let's go to your calls real quick, guys. If you can make it brief, I would really appreciate it. I appreciate you waiting and taking the time, however, to call in. I mean, it is humbling. It really is humbling to me. So I do appreciate that. Let's go to your calls. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie has been waiting patiently. He's in Columbus, Ohio. Eddie, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You got the mic. I think I might know who you are, Eddie, but I could be wrong. We'll find out.
Hi, Carl.
Eddie,
this is my first time. Yes.
Okay. All right. So no, not that Eddie. All right.
Okay. So no, different Eddie. Hey, I just want to say I don't get to hear you all the time because you're guest appearing in a lot of these different shows, but every time I dial into you, you are talking about, you are defining what it means to be a conservative. And you are the guy who is doing that consistently, coherently, and with a great expression of what it means, the way Rush Limbaugh did. You are one of the only ones doing it. So your voice is super important because you are defining what conservatism is, and you're not allowing the other side to do it. Thank you.
Wow. Eddie, wow. Thank you, man. I gave me chills. I am, man, I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate that, Eddie. Thank you. Bruce is in Long Beach, Strong Beach. Bruce, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You've got the mic.
Okay, thank you very much, Carl, for having me on. Population growth will be the suicide of the right. Take a look at any electoral map and all the high-density regions, the cities, urban areas, dense suburbs, they vote for the Democrats, they vote left. All the less dense rural areas, semi-rural, small towns, they vote for the Republicans, they vote right. If the population increases very, very much more, it's going to drive the population density in a lot of these districts, it's going to drive them to the left, and it's going to be real hard to win elections after that.
Now, when you talk about
I'm not
population,
saying that conservatives should not reproduce, but you know, there's an old saying: if your opponent is making a mistake, don't stop them. So if the liberals, the left, want to not reproduce, don't encourage them. Let them go extinct, not us. But let's not be under any illusion. If the population density increases in many of these districts, that next generation is growing up in an environment where there's a lot of outside influences, outside of family and things like that. They're going to go left in a way that in a small town, your family is a lot larger.
Bruce, can you hear me? Can he hear me? Can he hear me? Bruce, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me respond because I appreciate the argument. I appreciate the argument, but I think we're conflating a couple issues. You started to clarify. No, if you want to save the country, honestly, conservatives need to get their freak on. It's as simple as that. And we need to be willing to share our values and express our values and share our heritage with our children, something that unfortunately we don't do enough of anymore. The left you're right. The left is going to kill themselves. The population that I would be concerned about is the illegal aliens that are invading our country. That's what I would be concerned about, and that's what the left is trying to do, shift demographics. They want more, they want, obviously they want more congressmen and so on, et cetera. They want to change the electoral college map. So in that sense, I agree. But the antidote to that isn't for conservatives not to have kids. It's the exact opposite. We should be getting our freak on. We should be having more kids. And if the fear is the left is going to influence them, then frankly, Bruce, that's an indictment on us. And that's the problem. We shouldn't be concerned about the left. We should be fighting the left, and we should be teaching our kids. We don't sit down and teach, and thanks for the call, Bruce. We don't sit down and teach our kids why the left is evil. We don't sit down and teach our kids why biblical values are good, not because God wants to punish you or hates you. It's because he wants you to live the best life possible. And this is the stuff that we have to share. But I do appreciate your sentiment. I know where you're coming from. We just have a slight disagreement, and I wanted to make some clarifications. But, Bruce, I appreciate you calling in. Let's go to Dale. Dale is waiting. He's in, I don't even want to say it, Sean, but he's in Colon, Michigan. We've already had some issues with Dale, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You got the mic. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did, and
okay.
I was laughing because I called in right after that other gentleman
earlier
was talking about that. But
we won't go there. We don't want to say that word on radio anymore. So
let me get to my point here. I'm intrigued about you doing a series on the Bill of Rights, but I wanted to make sure that you spend just as much time on the preamble as you do of the preamble of the Bill of Rights as you do the other of the 10 Amendments themselves, because to me that's the most important part. It's a part that nobody even knows exists, and I'd like to read real quick the first sentence of it, and this is why I believe it's the most important part. It says, the conventions of a number of states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution express a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. In other words, it explains why every single one of those articles is there. It's to prevent the abuse of powers. Guns rights aren't there for sport. They're not there for anything else. It's to prevent the abuse of its powers. It's the federal government.
Dale, listen, I mean, that is a great call. I am dealing with some guys that have written the best books, in my opinion, including they've been part of the 5,000 Year Leap series that are going to be doing this series with me. I will make sure we discuss that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in. I will make sure that we definitely discuss that. My goal is to make Americans fall in love with America again. I don't care about your skin color. I don't care if you're black, white, purple. No, I don't care. If you're an American, I want you to fall in love with America. This is the greatest country that God has ever given man, regardless of some of our sinful past. Every nation, every people group has a sinful past. But there's a reason why God has chosen to bless America. And if we fail to realize, ignore it, if we fail to remember our roots, this it's going to be stripped away from us, and we're going to regret it. We have to save America, yes, even for liberals. We'll be back.
Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at pragertopia.com.